All right.
Okay.
Okay.
I guess it's working. I'm the one calling you.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess it's working. You didn't kick anybody out.
Well, all of a sudden, it kicked me out of the whole thing, and then I logged back in, and then it was fine. So
That's because I signed in. It's why it kicked you out.
okay.
But you should be good because Corey said he's using it tomorrow for his big meeting. So you should be able to chat uninterrupted.
Okay, perfect.
Alrighty, awesome. See you later.
What's up, John?
You want a drink?
Yeah, water.
What's up, John?
Hey, man.
You farming?
Oh, yeah. Planting away.
Nice, nice.
So, yep.
Hey, Sally.
You're the only one I can see right now.
Can you switch to gallery view? Hey, Clarks.
Okay. Are we the only ones on here right now?
Yep, for right now. Yep. How are you, Sally?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. It's good to see your face.
I'm all wet because I just had to give Otis a bath. He got all muddy. I'm like, oh my gosh, what time is it?
Hey, Billy.
Hi, how are you?
Doing great, man. It's good to see faces.
I know. So can we come back to church now?
Next Sunday, we're going to roll. So
Yes! I can't wait.
Me either.
Yes.
have you been
It is
working?
next Sunday, the 7th?
Yes. Yep.
Billy, your shirt blends in with your whatever you're sitting on, and you look like a floating head.
On my couch. Kylan, come turn some light on. So I'm not sitting
Awesome.
there.
I love it.
I'm a floating head. Kylan left me.
Hey, me and Matt are here. You just can't see us.
Okay.
How come you're in the dark?
You know what? We're always in the dark is all I can say.
Sounds like my life.
How are you doing, Sally?
I'm doing great. How are you?
We're doing well.
Awesome.
So Sally, my daughter misses your dogs.
Oh,
Randy!
yeah. I just said I just had to give him a bath because they got all muddy.
Yeah.
Especially Otis. He grows like every single day. He's humongous.
Oh, where'd John go?
Ben, you're getting hairy.
I know this is I've never had a beard my entire life. This is since quarantine started.
Are you gonna keep it?
I don't know. Jessica actually likes it, which I can't believe. So
Wow.
Isn't it hot though? Isn't it
Oh, yeah.
hot on these?
yeah, it's the
83
worst
days?
time of year to possibly grow a beard. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, you could pretend like you're in the Stanley Cup playoffs because they never shave when they're during the playoffs.
There we go.
I think Quentin's trying to challenge you though.
He's got me beat. The only part I can beat him is on top.
I've been growing out up here. Can't you tell?
Hey, Stacy!
Hello.
John, do you have GPS on that tractor? Does it drive itself? You're
You're muted.
Who?
John.
I've never done
Dropping
this,
it.
so I really don't know what's going on.
Wi-Fi out in the field is not great.
It's so cool to see people.
Yep, there's the GPS, baby. I love it.
What time is it? Oh, it's 8. Park won't stop.
Hi, Sally.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
All I have is a white head and a white body, like a figure. Here's Odie.
Hey, Joe.
Hi, baby. Look at this face.
Oh,
That's the puppy that
I
Monica's in love
know.
with.
Hi, Sarah.
I don't know who said that. There's way too many people on. Hi, everybody. Oh my goodness. Roll over. We're more friends.
Mary.
Hello.
The Davises.
Davises.
I don't think that everybody knows what they're doing. I don't.
What I COVID you.
Come on, baby.
I'm just a waving fool.
Here's Chelsea. Aw.
Danielle, you should be in the tractor with your husband who's on.
Uh-huh.
I know. I'm going to after this, actually. So.
Okay, I'm in.
Hello to the rigs.
Hello. Sorry. All right.
I was enjoying watching the fan spin around.
My goal was to make everybody sick.
I'm gonna wait about 1 more minute, guys, and then we'll get going.
Hello, Browns. And Davises. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I know. Almost.
Hey, Vans Andes.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, good.
Abby, there's Molly.
Your name? Who said your name? There's so many faces. I don't know who said your name. You know, Miss Tom. Remember? She was your teacher. And hi, please.
All right, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. If you would go ahead and mute your mic. That way it's not feedback. If you're on a computer, it's down in the bottom left-hand corner.
As the host, can you mass mute, Ben?
How do you do that? I knew you could do it. Where's it at, Matt?
In the mute section, is there an option to do? I'm not the host, so I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, that's where it always
Chat
went
on the
before.
chat.
This
It's in
time,
the chat, I think.
Go in the chat, Ben.
go in the chat.
Press chat.
Yep.
Danielle, let's see your Tommy.
Oh, that's okay. No. Wait.
Yeah. It's adorable.
Oh, go to participant. Sorry. You need to mute everybody.
Okay. Okay, guys. So one, I just got to tell you right now, it is so good to see so many of your faces. I don't know how you felt, but I always want to be safe and I want to make sure everybody's healthy. But man, do I miss seeing so many of you guys doing things like this. And so I just want to let you know it's been 70 plus days since we've been together. It's been far too long for me, and so I just wanted you guys to know that I'm just thankful for you jumping on here last minute. I'm going to take just a little bit of your time, and we're going to kind of go from there. I also just want you guys to know that it's a big deal that you just gave up 30 minutes tonight to be able to do this. And as we get started, here's the thing that I just want to say. Obviously, we're meeting today because we're going to try to path forward to opening our church tonight. And you guys all are difference makers, and you guys, I want you guys to have the first say in that. I want you to help me as we make decisions in that. I want you guys to be people that can speak into things and know things, and also be a voice of truth, because as this all happens, people will hear what they want to hear, or they'll hear something that's not true. And so secondly, I want to say this from the very beginning. From our staff as a whole, we talked about this week. There is going to be no shame for any of you or anybody who's not ready to come back yet. At the end of the day, you are in 100% control, and so are all the people, for whatever they believe and whatever their opinion is on what should happen and what shouldn't happen for their own lives. And I'm 100% fine with that. Because I know there's a group of people that are really scared still or nervous and aren't ready to come back. There's a group of people that are unsure, and there's a group of people that were ready months ago. And so I want to be respectful to all of those groups, and just saying that I hope the plan that we chart forward and that I present to you tonight is one that can check all those boxes, and one that no matter which group you fall in, we have an option for you. And so I want to kind of talk through what that will look like. I want to talk through some of our procedures, and then talk more specifics. And at the end, I want you guys to have an opportunity to ask whatever questions that you might have. So hopefully you'll understand the process, and you'll understand also where we're going to end up on this, so that you can be a part of it. So when we first closed, we were going to follow the school's lead. If you remember that, we said we're going to follow what the school does. So when the school cancels, we're going to follow the lead with that. Well, and then it came to a time where we made the decision that, schools weren't the best barometer anymore. And they had made decisions, and we were making decisions. And now we're entering these summer months where school's not even a barometer that we could use, even if we wanted to. And so our leadership has kind of been paying a lot of attention to the White House, paying a lot of attention to local government as well as the state government. And the biggest thing we're doing is just really following those CDC guidelines. And we're trying to figure out how all those things kind of mesh together to chart a path forward. And we just, as you know, the governor just today released a whole nother set of standards of what that's going to look like as we enter phase 3. And so there's 2 questions that we've been asking as we're having these meetings that are going to guide us during this time. What should we do, and what can we do? And so if you remember Paul in 1 Corinthians, he said that everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial. And so we want to continue to be a blessing to our community, where also we can do what we believe we can do. And knowing that even if we wanted to do something like open the doors fully right now with full-on programming, that's not something that we're allowed to do, nor are we comfortable with doing at this point. But we believe there's definitely something powerful that happens when we all get together, whether we're encouraged, we're empowered, we definitely are energized to make a difference. And we've all felt recently, what happens when that goes away? Like when we no longer have that as an option. But at the same time, even though as much as I long to have everything open and back to life as we used to know prior to all this, I also know that I want to be sensitive to all those spectrums that I kind of talked about before. And I know that there are some of you that have felt from the very beginning that you've not agreed with the government action. There's some of you who have. There's some of you who agree with parts of it, but not all of it. And I just want to make sure that we're not reactive in any of those things, even though we want life to go back to normal. And there are others who definitely feel like enough hasn't been done yet, and enough time hasn't passed for restrictions to be lifted. And I think then there's the group, like I said before, that falls in between. And regardless of those views, I think we just have a responsibility to minister and care and lead and love people, despite of all those opinions that we just talked about. And so our church has been and will continue to be for all people, and we are duty bound, in my opinion, to offer help and hope to all those people. And that's as we begin that kind of process, I just want to really speak to the sensitivity of the people, maybe some of you, as well as the people we're going to lead, where they fall on that spectrum. And Paul addressed that when talking about eating the meat that was sacrificed to idols, and he took special care not to cause people to stumble in that. And I want to make sure we do the exact same thing. So here's our plan. I said there's 3 groups of people, and there's the group that is not ready to come back. There's the group in the middle that's not sure, and there's a group that's been ready. And so we believe we have a plan that will check all of those boxes. And so we are the first thing we're going to do is we are going to continue to offer our online service the same way we have throughout this entire thing. So if you or somebody that you come into that you are in relationship with is in one of those high risk categories, or there's somebody that just doesn't feel comfortable with that yet, we are encouraging that they still stay with that online service. It's a high quality product, same message as everybody else is going to get. And we would say, go ahead and do that still every Thursday at 6, 9, or 10:45 on Sunday morning. So that piece is not going anywhere. And so for the group of people that we think is definitely not ready to come back, that is going to be an option. And even though you guys are all difference makers, if that's where you're at and you feel like that's the best move for your family, I said in the beginning, there's no shame in that. There's nothing that you need to feel bad about making that decision. The second group of people we talked about are the people that they're kind of unsure yet. And so what we are planning on doing at this point, we have partnered with the Park District, and they have a 40-foot blow-up screen and projection system that we are going to be doing drive-in church on Thursday evenings. And so what that means is if somebody I know there's a group of people that don't have internet or don't have a Facebook account or don't have access to some of those things, but they're ready to come back to church. And so we believe on Thursday night we can offer a high-quality product. So for the next 2 weeks, we're going to test that. So starting next Thursday, which will be kind of the first go at that, we're going to have that screen up. This Sunday night, our staff's going to come in and we're going to do a full run through of what that might look like, what's blowing up the screen, what should parking look like. We've purchased an FM transmitter, so when you pull into the parking lot, you'll be able to turn your radio station on your car to a station that we tell you, and it'll go with the entire service. Everything that you see on the screen, from worship to the message to the communion meditation. So we'll be encouraging people that do that service to bring something for communion, to be able to do that. And we kind of tested it tonight with our preschool drive-in as far as what parking has to look like to be able to stagger it a little bit, to be able to see the screen. But we believe if we get that screen elevated a little bit with 40-foot diameter and screen, that you should be able to see that from the majority of our parking lot. And so our plan is to offer that on Thursday nights for the next 2 weeks for that group of people that are still uncertain or just not quite ready to do that. And then the third option for people that are more than ready to come back, we are going to have our full live services at 9 and 10:45 on Sunday morning. And so, again, we'll get into the details, but when I say that, it's still going to be at a 25% capacity. So we believe that we can social distance at about 140 a service. So just to give you perspective on that, a large service on a Sunday morning would be somewhere between 300 and 400. So like that's just adults. So that when I say that number, that's kind of how we've driven at that. So far with our Missouri campuses and Iowa campuses, 30% of people are coming back. So Hannibal's a very similar campus to us. They've been about in the 320s for all three services as far as the percentage of people that are coming back. So with those three options, we are going to be still adhering to the CDC and state leadership when it comes to what that looks like on some things. So the drive-in will be, like we said, there will be no check-in process necessarily. There'll be nothing that has to happen outside of, you have to stay in your car and the building will not be open. So if you need to use the restroom or whatever, you'll have to exit or make sure you go beforehand. And we'll be telling people you need to stay in your cars. And I just want to be respectful, because this is the plan we've presented to the local government, even in saying what we're going to do. And so if that's a service that somebody takes advantage of, we'll be just saying, please stay inside your car or at your car. If you want to talk from 6 feet away, you go ahead and do that. For the people that are going to be coming in our building, we will be doing a pre-registration. And the reason why we're doing that is, and this is the part that probably will spin people out. So we are asking people to pre-register, not because we are giving your information to the government or the health department. Like, I've gotten a lot of feedback, like, I don't want Trace because I don't want government having my information. Our plan is only pre-registration for a couple reasons. One, we want to know where we're at in the number of people that are going to show up, because if we get to 140 in both services, we'll add a third service. Secondly, I think it's just our due diligence that if somebody comes to our service and actually tests positive for COVID-19, we owe it to all the people that were there to tell them that. And so when I say tell them that, if it was Quentin Hayes who had COVID, I would say a 23-year-old male during first service had it. I just needed you to know that because you were also at that service. Because there's been a lot of spin out. People think we're going to give their information to the government. They're going to be able to trace and steal your kids and do all that. That is not what we're trying to accomplish with that. It is simply just to know how many people are coming. And if we did have an outbreak, how could we communicate as easy as possible with those group of people to be able to do that. And so with that as well, we'll be doing temperature checks at the outside the building, registration process right inside, and then we'll be having hosts inside of our auditorium that will seat people, that'll help with entrance and exit. And also we're going to have an every other row set up. So first service we'll use rows 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, so on. Second service we'll use rows 2, 4, 6, 8. And then we'll have a full cleaning crew that will clean everything from bathrooms to door handles to seats in between services as well as after for the following one. So our hope is with all of that, we will not be doing anything outside of what happens in the auditorium. And so for the at least for the next few weeks for sure, there won't be any kids programming. There will not be any coffee bar open. There will not be, so the anything that kind of says, hey, stick around and visit and stay in the auditorium, we won't be doing any of those things because right now, like, no matter how good Danielle is at elementary, it's impossible for her to keep 50 elementary kids social distances. It would just be impossible for her and her team. Even if she had a 1-to-1 ratio, it'd be tough. I can't even do that in my own home. So I couldn't expect somebody else to do that. So we are going to continue to make guidance. If I had to tell you right now, I think children's ministry will come back in phases, where obviously the older kids are easier and we will start to work back to that. But again, I want to say this for all of these plans. This is what next week looks like for sure. And as we learn things, what I tell you today may be completely different, because I know we are going to learn some tough lessons, and we're going to learn things that we thought we were way more prepared for, and then they're going to have other things that we were really good at. And so with that, we have built hand sanitizer stations. I think you'll have a hand sanitizer station every 6 feet, so that you can definitely take advantage of that. Caleb Greenleaf has built custom crossing ones out of wood with crossing decals and everything. So we should be ready to rock and roll with that. We probably have a 2-year supply of the solution that goes inside of them. When we knew we could get it, we went ahead and placed a bulk order. I think they probably thought I was crazy when I ordered 22 hand pump stations and hand sanitizer to go in it. But so those will be all over the building. And I said before, there'll be a group of people. Our building, I can tell you right now, has never been cleaner. Every square inch of carpet has been cleaned. Everything has been wiped down. Our children's area has been on lockdown, because once we clean it, we keep it there and we clean it again. And so we've also worked with area distributors to have an E22 solution that is a 5-minute dry that is a spray on for any surface, including cloth, that all of that will be applied before and after. and as well as having hand sanitizing wipes or the Clorox wipes in the bathroom that after you get done using it, that we can wipe down all of the facilities that are going to be there, as well as that. We're also going to be encouraging people, if the mask thing is going to be if you can't social distance. So our staff will be wearing masks because there's no way we're going to, with doing registration, doing temperature checks, ushering people in and out, there's no way for us to say social distance. So if you stay within 6 feet, you don't have to wear your mask. If you are within 6 feet, you definitely need to do that. Once you're in the auditorium, we will have it set up to where the 6 feet will be a non-issue for you once you get to your seat. So the mask thing will be only required if you cannot social distance with that. Communion we'll have prepared ahead of time in containers with lids. So when you walk into our auditorium, there'll be tables lined up with one cup that has the bread in it, another cup that has the juice in it. You will grab that yourself. And it'll have a lid on it, so it should not ever be contaminated in that regard. You will take that to your seat then, and you will have that ready to go. Same with offering. We'll have buckets available as well as the things that have been on the wall for a couple of years now, so that there won't be any contact with those things there. We will also be asking anybody who prepares those things to have gloves on, a mask on. So if you're on the communion prep team, on Glenda's team, you'll be putting a mask on and gloves on, just to make sure, again, you're not responsible for any of that as preparation for that happens. We'll be significantly reducing the difference makers that we use, simply because we're doing things a little bit different. So obviously our worship and tech ministries will be full, because we'll have those for live services. Outside of that, we will have hosts in the auditorium. We'll probably have 6 to 8 of them that will be responsible for seating people and exiting people, and making sure, which is why the registration process is important. If we know we have a family of 10, the seating needs to look different than for families of 2. We want to make sure we have the space available to be able to do that. Obviously, we'll have a registration and a temperature check team. We'll have a communion prep team. We'll have a sanitization team. We'll have a security team, and then we'll have some greeters kind of in between. And that will be the skeleton crew that we run with for the first few weeks when it comes to that. The other thing, if people ask, if you go to thecrossing.net/together-again, all of our plans are on there. So if you yourself come up with something that you wish you to ask, somebody wants to know what you're doing, if you have somebody that's friends with another church, give it to them. That part doesn't matter to me. It has all of our information on there for what the plan would look like when it comes to what we're planning to be back together again. And so again, I just want to say this again. We feel like the one thing that this does 100% is, if no matter which camp you fall in, there's an option for you. And outside of that, everything else we're going to do is the best of our abilities to follow those CDC guidelines to keep people 100% safe as we can control. And what I need from you guys is, one, just see where you're at personally. And then if you are somebody who feels comfortable being at a service, I just need you guys to be on the branch setting the example of, we're not, even as badly as I want to give some of you a hug, not you, Denny, but everyone else I'd like to give a hug. We just can't do those things yet. Same with, as weird as it is, I had a guy 2 days ago in my neighborhood introduce himself to me and shake my hand. And it just felt completely weird. I just didn't even know how to react in those, because it's been such a long time since we've done those things. But I need you guys, if you are feeling comfortable, to be present, to set the tone on that behavior, because the one thing that I do not want to happen, I want people to talk about the crossing and the great people that go there and the church and Jesus, about people who could follow rules and set a high bar for an expectation. I don't want anybody to say the crossing was the reason that X happened that was negative. If you look at the bad press from the places like the Lake of the Ozarks this weekend, I don't want to be on the news showing one of our services with people not following those guidelines and not doing what the CDC says with that. And so, kind of as a timeline, tonight's meeting I wanted to happen first. On Sunday, there will be some communication about the reopening. On Monday, Jerry will make a public announcement that says that this is what's happening. On Tuesday, we will do an actual live video that shows people what the entrance and exit's going to look like from the building. So we'll literally set up everything and walk them through every station and what it's going to look like to be in Macomb if you want to be there physically for the Sunday services. We've already been in contact with local governments saying what we're doing. I had a meeting with I've had 2 meetings with the mayor in his office with Scott Coker, his administrator, just kind of saying, here's our plan. We've partnered with the Park District, like I say, for that drive-in thing. So they're providing the screen and the projector with those kinds of things. And then on Thursday will be the first time that we roll this out. So again, the online services, the drive-in, and then Sunday morning will be live. And once we get to that 140, my guess, if the drive-in is a way bigger success than what I think, we'll probably add another one on Friday. And then if Sunday starts to be, we don't have the capacity, we may look at doing the drive-in only on Friday, go back to a live service Thursday too on Sunday. So those will be all moving parts depending on who comes back. Right now, Hannibal, as I always use them as a comparison because just sheer numbers wise, they're close. They've never had a service over 100 or barely over 100 people yet, like 107. And so I have no idea if Macomb people are going to follow that same trend and coming back they're not ready to do that, or we're going to blow the doors off and need 5 services. I just don't know where people fall in that because most of my connection with people has been on social media, and that changes every day what people's opinions are. So with that, that's the plan where we feel like we tick the most boxes of people's comfort level. 2, no matter which group you fall in, there's no shame in that. You are responsible for what you think is best for you and your family. And 3, the CDC guidelines for cleaning, social distancing, all that stuff will be our #1 guiding factor for decisions we make around those areas. So with that being said, all of you are muted right now. So if you have a question or you want to talk about something specifically, I'd love to take some time and do that. You'll have to unmute yourself first.
One thing that you mentioned that I just was, or maybe I heard Jerry talk about at one time was, and just the whole thing about the expectation that everybody has to have, and we can set that example. I thank you for setting that stage. Is there anything we're going to be talking with people beyond the video that Jerry shared in case they didn't see it to let them know those expectations too?
Yeah, so this video that we're doing today, I will send out to 300, like the people that got the email you got there was like 327 people. So this is being recorded tonight. And so I'm sorry if you didn't have your right shirt on that everybody's going to see in that shirt. But, so that'll be sent to them with everything that we said today. I will do a live video specifically with a lot of the same bullet points that I went over to you guys for our entire congregation that we will both email out to our database as well as do on social media platforms for people to be able to see. And then I will be also, all the ministry team leaders will be talking to their specific difference makers as well for seeing when they start to reach out to certain people to be able to schedule them, but also just to talk about expectations as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
I assume this has been addressed at the other locations, but the pre-registration, so if somebody shows up and they're not pre-registered, are they going to be able to register on the spot, or are they going to be told that they can't attend?
That's a good, I'm glad you brought that up. I forgot to cover that. So we're going to try to, I have a hard time answering the question. We're going to definitely leave some spots open for people that either one, don't know how to do the registration process online. We'll have a whole booth for so when you get there, if you're not there, we'll have a separate area for people that did not pre-register, and we'll leave certain number of seats open. Reason why I don't know what the right answer is, Keokuk on average has had 3 people not register, and Hannibal's had 60 to 70. So I don't know, what that's going to look like, but our plan is at least, and I may say this in the video, if you have problems with registration or you don't know, just call our office and we'll register we'll register for you. But to answer your question, we'll probably leave 20 spots open at least, if not, and then we'll kind of make a decision after the first weekend if that was enough or not too many. Because nobody's hitting capacity, I don't perceive that being a huge issue, again, unless people in Macomb just decide it's time to go, it's time to get back to a new normal, and they go there. But to answer your original question, we'll save spots for people who did not register ahead of time and make sure there's space for them.
How do we
Go ahead, George.
Go ahead, George.
how do we pre-register?
Yep. So there will be a link that will be emailed out that you'll literally click on and just write your information, and it'll be a family. So if you registered, you could register for you and your wife, and that would tell us just the total number of people. So there'll be a link that'll go out once Jerry makes this announcement on Monday morning. Then the link will go live.
So on the contact tracing piece of it, so have you guys thought about or talked about if people that don't pre-register show up and say, I don't want you recording my information, I just want to be able to come to church? How do we handle those?
We actually had that happen, and we messed that up at one of our locations. We allowed that person to attend. That will not be allowed. That'll be a rough spot for me to be in, and I hate that. But I feel like the safety of the whole group is what I have to do, and just being responsible. So if that is an issue, I will tell that person we have a great online service that I'd love for them to join at home. And again, I hope that doesn't happen because there's no win in that for me. But I believe I have to uphold that because I owe it to all of you guys. If that person came in and had COVID-19 and I didn't know it and I didn't know who they were and I couldn't tell you any information, I think that would be a bad steward of that as well. So our staff, myself, and all the guys and girls on staff will be really monitoring that and taking care of that, and we'll be telling them they cannot attend.
I have a question, Ben. So even though there's no kids programming, are there any restrictions on kids attending?
No. In fact, Danielle has put together, and her team have put together packets for the kids that we'll hand them when they walk in. That'll have snacks in it. That'll have, some God card in it. It'll have some crayons and a coloring page for them. And we're also going to tell parents, hey, if you want to bring your kid and have headphones and let them be on an iPad, do it. That's the thing. So again, Keokuk has, they've had some crazy kids in the auditorium that have been interesting, and other campuses haven't had any kids at all. So I don't know what that's going to look like, but we're not telling families they can't bring their kids. Now their kids will be required to have the same CDC guidelines. So if you brought Molly and she saw one of her friend's moms and ran across the auditorium and hugged her, we just can't have that. But outside of that, they would be allowed to come, and then it would be up to you to make sure you police
Sure. One more question to go along with that. Do you know if the nursing mom's room will be open? I just have some ladies in my group that might want that information.
Yes, and we think you can get 2 moms in there safely. Outside of that, it's there's usually spots in there, 4 spots in there, but 2 in that space is probably about the best we can do. Now, if that becomes an issue, one thing we will probably do is open one of our kids' space specifically for that reason. If we find that 2 spaces for moms is not enough space.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I have another question for you, Ben. So on the bathrooms, or how are you monitoring that kind of stuff? And I'm thinking especially the second set migration to the bathrooms, where everybody gets up after the service, like runs. And how are you handling those? Because it's really pretty confined. You don't have a lot of room.
Right. So that'll be a spot that some of our host people take care of. So because we'll be putting almost bathroom attendants that kind of have to chart that in and out if people can't do that themselves. Now, the last thing I want is an accident in the lobby, but because if you have been right after the sermon, if you watched our lobby, there are people on a dead sprint that's about as long as they could have waited during our service. And so I get that. But our plan is not to have any of the kids area bathrooms open, just use the ones in the lobby though, just to make sure of safety when we do open kids spaces. But we will have to have somebody probably, if that becomes an issue, we'll have to have somebody outside there to monitor that, because even in the guys example at the urinals, you couldn't use both of them and be socially distanced, where in the girls bathroom, not a big deal because you have dividers. So that is something, I'm glad you brought that up. We'll have to put somebody there that makes sure that happens.
So hall passes and hall monitors?
Yeah. Maybe, or you gotta scan something to get your spot in the bathroom, Or like in Europe, they have the slots where you had to put your quarter in to be able to have the door open. So maybe that's what we need to do.
So
So-
kind of, I have a question, Ben, to kind of piggyback off Sarah Haley's question on kids. Are the services going to be the same length amount of time, or are they going to be a little shorter since we will have the little ones with us?
They will probably not be much shorter because we will still have all the, just to keep consistency, they'll still have all the same elements of what online looks like. Now, here's the difference. Now that we're doing live stuff, if Clayton landed the plane after the sermon and went 5 minutes, I'm in control of that. Maybe I could go 3 minutes and it could cut 2 minutes off the time like that. But I would still say, like, we try to hit an hour 7 is our target. And I would say that we've been a little bit long because we've added that prayer time that we don't normally do in our services that we've done online. So we've been running hour 12, hour 15, somewhere in that range. But we're going to try to hit that hour and 7 mark. But it will not be like a Christmas or Easter when we've done family services where it's under an hour.
I assume there's going to be registration for the normal people that are coming for services, and there's going to be registration for the difference makers, so who's going to be attending different
So that all for us to have the same database that makes communication will be the same. So if you are scheduled to be a difference maker on second service, you need to register the same way a normal participant would, because it's based on the total number in the room from the percentage that we have to hit. So even though you're in the tech booth as an example and you're secluded, that still counts as being the amount at the venue. And so we're going to have people register even if you're a difference maker at the exact same spot. Any other questions? Is there anybody, listen, I've never led through a pandemic before. So if you think about our 3 options, if there's things that you think are a bad idea or you want to give pushback, that's, you guys are my heartbeat of the leadership of the church. And so if there's any pushback on that, I would by all means want to hear that. We're the only campus doing the drive-in option. Everybody else is going to launch with 3 services. I just felt like in McDonough County specifically with new cases and that, I thought the most sensitive route was still to offer something that did not require you to be inside the building.
I have a question, Ben. When we reach the 140 or whatever the number is, you just turn people away after that want to walk in?
We'll add a service.
Well, I mean, like,
oh, you mean so if you're saying, yeah, that is the downfall that
40, you can't come in now or something. Yeah. Is that what it is?
We told everybody we've communicated with that we would hit that 140 mark. So I don't feel like I would probably encourage them to come back to the next service. If it was 9 o'clock, if there was space or something, but I feel like if we communicate 140, I think we need to stay at that. And then I would hope that they could register the next, for the next service. And if we get 80% capacity in any of those services, we'll probably add a 3rd one. So that's kind of the way we do things anyway. So my hope would be that wouldn't be the situation unless, again, we were planning on 50 people and 50 more showed up unregistered, which I hope that number's small. But so when we probably start bumping up that 100 mark for any of our services, or maybe 115, we'll probably add an additional service just to be safe on something like that.
And I know you keep saying adding services, that it concerns me a little bit, because you're going to find your difference makers to staff those services. And then, so if your 9:45 service tops out, you'll try to bump them or the 9 o'clock service tops out, you'll try to bump them to the 10:45. If that maxes out, then the next week you'll have to plan that out. And then if you go under, do you then drop that service the week after that? It just gets a little confusing.
So what I think that how I would answer that question right now is, we would try to fight to get, if we're adding a service, what I would probably do first is add my Thursday night to be alive and move my drive into a Friday night, because I want to stick to as clean as what we're used to it all the time. So we would, if 9 and 10:45 start filling up to the max, we'll make that Thursday a live service now and move the drive in, if that's still successful, to a Friday night or Saturday night instead. of what that looks like. So that would be my first move. And then my second move would be to add more services on Sunday. But we would have probably a drop down because of what you're saying. Like I probably after Friday would not add a service just for the simple fact that people have a life. And I think it's disrespectful to not give them plenty of time to be scheduled as a difference maker. And I also know that between staff and staff spouses, we probably could cover a service even if it was last minute. So that would be my my backup to the backup plan if that had to be different.
One more question. With usually, like for example, when Larry and I are on doors for welcome, we're always paired together. Since we probably aren't going to want our kids just wandering around, will you try to split people up then?
Yeah, so instead of
Otherwise,
mass, like so with Heather, when Heather and I met this week, what my plan is to actually not do an email blast out on Planning Center, but actually contact people specifically for special circumstances like that. Or we don't have a cleaning crew on PCO. We don't have a host thing. We don't have a venue registration. So we don't mess all those things up for the future. We're probably going to do scheduling on a, hey, what would work for you? And so in that situation, you could say this Sunday I'll do it. Next Sunday Larry will do it, as an example. But that'll be probably a personal ask, not necessarily an email where you check a box.
perfect. Thanks.
Yep. Anyone else?
Remember, Ben, is masks?
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna double check. Is masks required then, or not required to be in?
Only people we're gonna require are people that can't social distance. So probably the majority of our staff that are doing registration or temperature checks or host, those kinds of things, yes. If you can remain socially distanced and you're walking in with you and Michelle and you're not within 6 feet of anybody, that will be on your whatever you feel the most comfortable with, but that will not be required on our end as long as you can socially distance. Glenda?
There we go. The only other question I had was when we were talking about the drive-in service. Are we providing communion for that?
The first 2 weeks, I'm going to have people bring their own. The mayor did tell me it is okay because he's allowing the Catholic Church to have the priest provide communion to their people. I just feel like for 2 weeks.
What would that look like?
With the tent?
Yeah.
Be interesting. But I mean, for the Catholic Church, they believe that he has to bless it. I mean, that's really probably the option that they had. But for the first 2 weeks for that, I'm going to encourage people to bring their own, and then I'm going to see what the numbers are. If the numbers are manageable and we're already making them, then we'll probably start providing that for people who don't have that. But first 2 weeks of driving, for me, we're just going to show the online service and see what the flavor is as far as whether people want that or not. And then I could see us the third week adding a live speaking and live worship to that, as well as a communion time or something like that. But for the first 2 weeks, until we know, we're going to just encourage people to bring it themselves.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Well, I can't reiterate this enough, guys. It is so good to see you guys. And I'm so thankful for, man, our church has been so faithful through this. And the number of things, just so you know that, you guys have been a part of, we've been able to serve the community really well in a tough time. And I'm really proud of that. I'm proud of our church and proud of you guys, proud of the generosity of people. We've given away close to 2,000 bags of groceries to people in need since this has happened. We've delivered meals to shut-ins. We've done, our preschool staff has driven to every student's house to give them a gift and tell them we miss them. We've just been able to serve a lot of people really, really well. And it's all because, you guys have continued to be prayerful. You've continued to be generous. You've continued to lead in your own capacity in that. And so the one thing that was said, if you remember on week 1 that Jerry said is, what are you going to have to show for this? And I'm really proud of what we have to show for it. And as much as, you know, I was proud of our church before, I'm proud of our leaders. I'm proud of our elders. I'm proud of our staff. I'm proud of all of you. I'm just so thankful to be a part of it, because we've definitely made a good name for Jesus with what we've been able to do through an incredible tough time, and what we're going to continue to be, because, you know, I'm not foolish enough to think that once we come back to church, this is over. We're going to be, you know, there's going to be an impact of this for a long time. You know, every time we're in a meeting with other churches, the overall feeling is we don't know what church will look like, and we don't think it'll ever look like it did prior to this. But that's not all bad. You know, we had our staff meeting this week, and I said there's also an opportunity we get to reset things. That, you know, I think God has reset our world right now, and I hope that also carries over to us personally and our church, where we get an opportunity to reset and chart a new course forward that I think is going to be incredibly exciting. So I love you guys. I can't wait to be in your presence again and just be with you guys. And please reach out to me. I'm going to send, like I said, a copy of this video tonight to everybody, difference maker wise. And I also want to say to you, no matter which one of those three groups you fall in, no shame. We want to continue to provide a high quality experience for you to worship and hear God's word, regardless of where you fall in that. And so, as always, love you guys. I'm super thankful for you, and just proud to be a part of this team.
Thanks, Ben.
All right. Hey guys, we'll see you soon, okay? If you would, anytime we put something out on social media or an email, if you would share it so that we don't, our intent is to never miss people, but even in me sending out an email, I found out the number of people who we had the wrong email address, even in our database for something like this. And so it's never our intent. You know, like they always say, you're only as good as the information you get. And so if you could help us get that word out and share that, there'll be communication that goes out that'll be about all these things. But again, Thursday, the drive-in, and we'll find out times on Sunday night when we do a full run-through of when it gets dark enough to kind of have that and what that'll look like, and then 9 and 10:45 on Sunday morning. So love you guys. Have a great rest of your weekend, and thank you so much for jumping on this call.
Thanks, Ben.
And for those of you, if this is your first Zoom meeting, welcome to the club. We've been doing way too many of them recently. So, all right, guys. Have a good night.
Good.
You needing anybody for